Welcome back to another TheeSportsScoop video. Today we got three of us on here. That's me, Charlie Nidell, and co-hosts Cian McDermott and Dylan Shalom. Today we are going to be running through something we were unable to do on the last podcast. We ran out of time, and we wanted to get it to you guys so bad that we figured we'd make it a separate video. We have some hot takes on some players, on some prospects in the NFL draft. So why not just give you our all-out opinion and tell you whether we think that they are overrated, fairly rated, or underrated. We'll call this overrated, underrated, because who wants to hear fairly rated?
I'm telling you that I'm going to have to make a decision. I'm not going to choose fairly rated, regardless.
That's why I said who wants to hear fairly rated. That's Kayvon Thibodeaux. Cian, I'll start with you. So say, I think a lot of boards have him falling to potentially even out of the top 5, underrated or overrated.
I think, and again, this is what we talk about the podcast. We're going to be doing the overrated, underrated, fairly rated based on media coverage on the player and where we've seen them. Yeah. I think we knew that, but Kayvon Thibodeaux, I think, is underrated. And I think all three of us love Thibodeau. I think, am I wrong? Do we all have him as our edge one? I might be wrong. Dylan, I know you do.
I have Hutchinson as my one.
Oh, okay. But I still think, I'm not sure. I still have to finalize, but I mean, you're looking at Thibodeau. I think he's that kind of classic Chase Young, Myles Garrett type of guy. Obviously not as polished as them, but in terms of speed and bend, I think he'll have at his peak more of an impact than a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. Although I still think it's very hard to argue because I still think Aiden Hutchinson will be fantastic. But I think you look at media coverage of Kayvon Thibodeaux, and again, like you talked about, a guy who they have slipping, almost to 9 to 10. Ridiculous. And I just don't get that. And not only that, and this more comes down to the CBS and ESPN and the so-called draft analysts that, to me, just, again, I believe in having your opinion. It gets to a point where it's absurd, and having Thibodeau fall to 10 is not going to happen. At the end, unless something, medical, like that's not going to happen unless something drastic happens from here until the draft. And I don't see that happening because it's in less than a month. Kayvon Thibodeaux is a fantastic NFL player. Generational, no. Elite, yes. Definitely not a guy I would say we haven't seen or prospect like we haven't seen come out, but he will make an immediate impact on whatever NFL teams you go to. The bend and speed he has off the line of scrimmage is fantastic. It's, again, like the top guys we've seen come out. So I think, again, based on media coverage, this guy is underrated, but me as an analyst and as a channel, I think we have him very fairly rated as one of the most elite pass rushers, if not the most elite in this class. So I definitely would say in terms of media coverage, they're underrating him. And it's definitely very upsetting to have to say that.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I'm going to go with underrated. Now, I was watching a little segment from the Boomer Bust podcast show. I really like them, by the way. Shout out. And they were saying a lot of the hate towards Kayvon Thibodeaux comes from the bad interviewing, which is what they're saying.
Yeah, right.
But what they were saying was the teams didn't seem to think he interviewed badly. The media picked up that he was wearing sunglasses indoors and decided to make him like a fit about it. And they did the same thing with Lamar Jackson in the 2018 draft. You see where he is, by the way. And I just
just to interrupt you. Who cares?
Exactly.
Like, wait, who cares?
Exactly.
Who cares?
I don't think anyone cares.
If he was being blatantly disrespectful or something like that.
No, okay. The Detroit Lions came out and said he had one of the brightest answers to their interviews. He seemed to have a high football IQ. It's not like he's Johnny Manziel walking into an interview. He knows what he's doing. And I think the disrespect into putting him lower on the board just really comes out of analysis boredom. They kind of got bored of putting him number 1, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to make him fall a little farther. And I don't quite understand why. Don't want to dwell on it. You've pretty much been saying the same thing over the course of this process. Charlie, you want to go?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know that I have much to elaborate on what you guys said. I think I completely agree. I think Thibodeau is my potentially number 1 player in this class, potentially just number 1 edge. I think it's very close, but I think the number 1 edge probably is the number 1 player in this draft. So I will say Thibodeau is the number 1 player in this draft. He is the player I would take at pick number 1 for the Jaguars for the most part. And I think you guys said it well. I think Kayvon Thibodeaux it's coming to a point where he is underrated. I didn't think we'd be saying this at the start of the season because he was the far and away number 1 pick before the season started. And the fact that he has slipped this much just kind of
it was him and Spencer Rattler were the first 2 picks.
Yeah.
How funny that is.
That's true. But yeah, I think we can move on. We all agree underrated for all three of us on Kayvon Thibodeaux. Let's move to a player that I think may be a little bit more interesting. Now, I don't know actually your guys' take on this player, although I think I have an idea. But let's go. We'll stay on the defense side of the ball, but move to a different spot. That's Derek Stingley.
I knew you were. I was just thinking about that. I actually think, and I just did a Giants mock draft. I had them draft Stingley. If you guys know, and Charlie and Dylan, you know this. I thought this guy could be drafted as a freshman. And again,
Oh
it
yeah,
actually, in some weird way, has kind of bit him in the butt, like because he's gotten not worse, but since 2019, he hasn't reached that level yet. And again, injury in 2020 was out for the season. This year LSU were awful, like in terms of talent, they were terrible. But again, there hasn't been a lot of film, and I would actually say he's underrated. I think again, this is a take, but I think we were talking about this just for a record. I think this guy could be one of, if not the best cornerback to ever play in the National Football League, or one of the best to do it. I won't say the best to do it. I don't think you can say that. But I think that's one of the very few things analysts can't say. That's off
of
limits.
a draft
But
player.
yeah, but no, I think he could be fantastic, and I think barring he stays injury free, that I think that's the whole. And it's so unfortunate for players like that, and you see it all the time for elite players who unfortunately just get injured a lot. You see that in the NBA, you see it in NFL, you see it across all sports. But again, looking at this guy's film when he was a freshman, his tape is ridiculous. In terms of in coverage and being sticky in man coverage, there's no one who can get better at it. And I think the only problem people are seeing, he's a little bit jumpy in zone. He passes off man sometime, and when he doesn't have a safety behind him. But in man coverage, he will go into the league, and in terms of raw ability, he will go into the league as one of the best man cover guys. Again, can he do in the game? Maybe not. But in terms of like literally the ability to cover a receiver across from him, it doesn't get much better than him in the nation. And again, I think we've seen Sauce Gardner kind of rise above him, and I'm even a one of those guys who has put Sauce Gardner a little bit above him. But I think Derek Stingley, had he stayed healthy, I think this guy could have been the number one overall pick as a corner. Yeah. I think the talent and potential this guy has is sky high. So I think in terms of where he's been mocked, I think he's underrated. But I say he's on that fine line of fairly rated and underrated.
Media coverage, I'm not quite certain. It's tough. I know for sure that if I'm a team, I'm taking Ahmad Gardner over Derek Stingley. I know that I might even be considering taking an Andrew Booth over Derek Stingley, because the most important ability is availability. And he has not been able to prove that he's able to stay on the field. He has not lived up to his 2019 stock. And quite frankly, I've seen him get burnt a couple too many times to be able to class him as the best cornerback in college football. I'm going to go with overrated, and it is no disrespect to Derek Stingley. I think he's an excellent player, but where you do see that 2019 tape where you do see him locking up quality receivers, you could also go and search up his game against CeeDee Lamb, his game against Devonta Smith, his game against receivers that are in the NFL in this current day, and you can see him get burnt. And then from that day on, he hasn't quite lived up to his 2019 name, injured a lot this season, not a lot of tape on him, didn't get to evaluate him much. And there's hype about him over the pro day, and which I am saying it again, everybody plays well at their pro day. They don't matter. And I think just a little bit overrated.
Charlie. So I'm going to have to agree with Cian on this one. And here's why. I don't think that he as a player is necessarily being super underrated right now, but I think that when he's being compared to other prospects in this class, that's where he's being underrated.
Yeah.
He's a 6-foot corner, so he's got good size, and he runs a sub 4.40. That is raw speed. And despite all that ball skills, his ability to cover anybody in man coverage, on NFL, he's rated a 6.5. As a prospect,
yeah, that's Shula.
which puts him in the category of boomer bust potential.
Yeah.
Now,
I think that's accurate.
Now, here's the thing. There are two corners rated higher than he is. That's Sauce Gardner, who, no disrespect to Sauce Gardner, he's a great player, who's rated at 6.72, which is a year one starter. Now, I don't see how Derek Stingley's not in the year one.
No, of course
starter.
he's going to be a year one starter.
And Trent McDuffie
Nah.
at 6.7. Now, how are you going to put Trent McDuffie at 6.7? That's year one starter. And then Derek Stingley, not in the year one starter category, at 6.5. I'm sorry, I have to say underrated based on that. I think Derek Stingley has the potential to be one of the best corners in the league. I think he could be
I think
if
he
I had
could
to
be the best
compare him
corner in the league.
to, I think if you had to compare him to a current day NFL corner, maybe Stephon Gilmore.
Well, if I'm looking at only the next gen rankings, then of course I'm going to say underrated. But there's a lot of other news outlets that are having him higher rated.
Okay, but just watch his highlight tape. Just watch his.
There's not enough highlight tape of him recently.
I think I agree with Dylan. I don't think there's enough tape yet. And Charlie, I think that's one of the, you can't argue against that. Like there is.
No, it's a clear downside. Injury is bad. It's not, you don't want to draft a player who you think will get injured or who you are having to hope won't get injured. But I think that Derek Stingley is the only generational talent in this class.
I think him and Kyle
Tyler
Hamilton.
Linderbaum.
I don't think Linderbaum's generational in the same way.
You don't
as
see a center coming out of
well, let's not get off topic. But
it's not the same. And
I think like Charlie,
great,
Dylan,
Derek
the talent
Stingley,
is right.
It's just he could, if he was not injury prone, he'd be the number one pick in this draft.
Oh yeah, like far and away the number.
I think I agree with you.
I think he should still be a top 3 to 5.
Yeah,
because if Jeff Okudah is able to win himself the number 3 pick,
right.
Like jury's still
Derek
out on
Stingley,
Jeff Okudah, by the way. I still think he's going to be good.
No, I think he still could be very good, but the fact that Sauce Gardner, no shade to Sauce Gardner, he's a great player, but the fact that he's being mocked higher than Derek Stingley right now just doesn't sit right with me. He's a great player. He's a great player. I'd be happy. Any team with Sauce Gardner would be happy. But Derek Stingley, if he lives up to his potential, will be far and away the best pick in this class, far and away the best pick of this 5-year period. It's Stingley
if he
lands. If he pans out, he goes to the Hall of Fame. And that's not something that most players.
I don't find myself, besides maybe him and Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence is hard because it's quarterback. You can't say he'll be the best quarterback ever because that's like nearly impossible.
There's so many.
Cornerback wise, Derek Stingley can be. I mean, I
think it'll be hard to pass prime time, but
but I'm saying,
but he will be up there with
maybe
the
in the if you want to define the modern era, whatever. Like I think Derek Stingley
Richard
has
Sherman.
it all. Yeah, something like exactly.
If he pans out, he will be up there with the greats. That's all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think he's.
I will say this. I agree with both of you. I think you can very feasibly argue, I don't know if that makes sense, that he is underrated and overrated. I think there are arguments for both. So I do think, that's one of the things where the media, there's definitely several takes you can have on Stingley. I think no one will deny, Dylan, even though you have him overrated, the talent he will bring.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. No, I would be very happy if he was down at 7. I think you just can't pass up a player with that talent, even for injury.
Yeah, but the only thing I would argue is a team that needs corner going and not going, getting Stingley and going somewhere else. Yeah.
Right.
Charlie, who's next?
Next up, I feel like it's a very defense heavy start to this one. But we're going to go to defense. We're going to go back out of the secondary. We're going to go to Trayvon Walker.
Right.
Very interesting prospect.
I think media-wise is the most controversial one, but I think we have a very consensus opinion on Trayvon Walker. Dylan, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Trayvon Walker.
Oh, Dylan, I forgot.
I started this process with the mind of Trayvon Walker, okay, fringe first-round pick. And then I watched a little bit more of him. I said, you know what? I don't understand why a team would spend a first-round pick on him. He doesn't seem to rush the passer well. He has pretty much one pass rush move in his arsenal. And when they had third down passing plays, they would sometimes take him out. And then as he kept climbing up to the middle of the first round, I kept that same mindset. I'm like, you know what? Okay, maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's a first-round pick, sure. And then we see this. And I'm still in this mindset of, okay, he's probably a first-round pick, probably early 20s, late teens. Trayvon Walker, okay, makes sense. He's versatile. He knows what he's doing. He's a pretty good scheme fit anywhere. But are you kidding me? First overall, over Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeaux. I'm like my mind is boggled. It's ridiculous to me. Because this is a guy who played in, yes, the best defensive line in recent college football history, but he wasn't playing 100% of the snaps. He had 10.5 sacks in his college career. Is that who you want at the first overall pick?
Hutchinson had more this year.
Jermaine Johnson had more this year, and I don't like Jermaine Johnson at all.
Yeah, I didn't include him on this list because then it would just turn into slander.
Yeah, he's another one of those. But yeah, no, Dylan, having Trayvon Walker at number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or number 4.
Keep going down. Keep going
5,
down.
6, yeah, like top 10. I don't know. I
think
Trayvon Walker.
I would accept him from 7
top
down.
10 player.
I think he offers a lot, and I think he's a guy who will go in and make an immediate impact. But like everything you look at him, the sacks aren't there. The PFF grade is not there. His highest rated game was a 79.5. The production is not there. I said that. It's not like he was some standout guy in that defense. Like he was on a fantastic defensive line.
You watched the tape, and you could clearly see how much he benefited from playing next to Davonte Wyatt.
And he played defensive tackle. I think he offers versatility to play 3-4-4-3.
He played defensive tackle. He came out for passing plays sometimes. He has one move in his arsenal, and it's a simple bull rush.
And Dylan, and not to mention taking edge rusher at 1. He's not very good at getting to the quarterback.
You are taking Trayvon Walker at number 1 overall
to runs block.
You are the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous to me that that's even a conversation. I haven't even said what I think. Overrated. Very clear.
Yeah, overrated. Sorry, okay. we forgot. Yeah. We got so overrated. Charlie.
Is he a good player? Sure.
Yeah.
Is he a top 5 player? Are you out of your mind?
And the argument, not even now, is he the best player? Like that's where we've gone to.
Absolutely not. I'm telling you that if I'm like, say I'm Philadelphia and I'm looking for an edge rusher, I'd rather have.
I would rather have Ojabo.
I'd rather have Boye Mafe. I'd rather have Arnold TK. I don't know how to say his name.
I don't know about that. Okay. Well, like that's a little, but Charlie, what do you think, Charlie?
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate for just a minute,
and I think you need to.
I'm gonna do it just to see if I can get anything across to change your mind, just even a little bit. I know I'm not gonna change it fully, but I mean he's a run stopper. He's not a pass rusher.
But
That's why he comes out on passing downs.
I hate to interrupt you here because I do want to hear what you have to say, but with the first, second, and third overall pick, you want to take a one-dimensional run stopper
and an edge. It's different. Maybe if he's a dominant defensive tackle who's good at run stopping, but an edge.
So here's where you're wrong, though, Dylan. You said he's one-dimensional. He's so clearly not a one-dimensional player. He played 2 sports in high school.
That doesn't mean anything.
One-dimensional in terms of I think Dylan means one-dimensional in terms of what he can do against an offensive lineman.
Yeah,
he is not a threatening pass rusher.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. But he has times where he can be. He has times where he can get to the quarterback. We've seen it a few times, 10.5. And he's a dominant run stopper. He'll be a one-way player. He'll come off the field on passing downs, but NFL teams most of the time are deep enough to accommodate for that. Mm-hmm. Now, again, you do not.
Jacksonville or Detroit or Houston deep enough to accommodate
that? As I'm saying, again, you do not want to waste a top 5 pick on someone you have to accommodate for. But he also ran the 40-yard dash in 4.51 seconds at 6'5", 272 pounds. That's really fast. I mean, he's really fast. Plus, I mean, you're getting a run stopper here, so he's a different kind of player. Okay, and he's versatile on the D-line. We've seen him play on the edge. We've seen him play a D tackle, and on run plays, he is dominant. I don't know if you want to admit it or not, but he's dominant on the run.
I think the perfect comparison to him is Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary is someone who's taken highly, hasn't lived up to expectations, but when you really look at the film of Rashawn Gary, he's been dominant in run stopping. I think Trayvon Walker would be that.
And he's faster than Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary is one of the fastest edges in the league.
Yeah, exactly. And Rashawn Gary is someone who you're not,
faster.
Rashawn Gary is not someone you're like, oh my God. You're like, oh my God, Rashawn Gary. But Trayvon Walker, I think, will go in and make an immediate impact. He won't be the flashy defensive player of the year, defensive rookie of the year candidate, but will be impactful. That's why I'm saying you don't go and take that at 1 in top 10. You know what I mean?
But
like that's what the.
Yeah. But I will agree with you. Right now, he's overrated. I cannot see the hype going top 5. I have him as a fringe top 10 player. I think that's the right spot for him, being a run-stopping edge rusher. But I think I will have to agree he is an overrated player, great tackler, great run stopper, but not my not bread and butter at 5.
Yeah, I do apologize for over exaggerating. Of course, I wouldn't take Arnold. I don't want to try again, or Boye Mafe ahead of him, as much as I do like Boye Mafe. But just to get my general point across, you don't take a guy like that in the top 5 picks. You have so many players that you can have. You could have Kyle Hamilton. You could have the best 2 edges in the class. You can have Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner. You could take Drake London.
Number 1, you can have anybody you want.
You could have whoever you want, and he is just not close.
Yeah, I mean,
who's next, Charlie?
I think the biggest thing he brings to a defense is the just closing speed.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're playing against someone like Lamar Jackson, he's not going to run away from Lamar Jackson so easily. Lamar's not going to run away from him so easily. 4.51 speed, that's perfect for a QB spy.
That's fast.
That's perfect for a spy.
Yep.
I mean, I know he's not going to be necessarily in on passing downs, but if he's a run stopper, he's going to be containing the quarterback. He's scary. Quarterbacks don't want to scramble against him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we can move down. We're gonna flip over offense side of the ball.
Here we go.
What we're waiting for a little bit.
Oh, I think I know this
and probably the most entertaining position in all of football. We're gonna go to quarterback. I'm not picking the obvious Malik Willis. I know we have our opinions on Malik Willis. I know we have our opinions on Sam Howell. I'm actually going to go for someone who I don't think should be a first-round pick, but I think people have him in a first round. So I'll start off by saying I have him overrated. I won't go into why. That's Kenny Pickett.
All right.
Yeah. I saw a scouting report on Kenny Pickett, and it was kind of weird. Like mid scouting report, I was like, oh, he's not as good. Like while I was watching his film, breaking down his film, I was like, he's not as good as I thought he was. And again, I mean, we saw, I don't know if you guys follow NFL on Instagram. I don't know, Charlie, if you saw this. They did a mock draft, or they did a graphic of all the their recent mock draft, and all the quarterbacks were taken. They had like 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 10, and they had Kenny Pickett at like 4. And I was like, that might have not been it, but I was like, come on. Kenny Pickett is going to be at best a Kirk Cousins successful, and Kirk Cousins great quarterback, and maybe a little bit more. And again, I could be wrong. I guess a lot of people have him as kind of a slightly worse Joe Burrow. I think significantly worse Joe Burrow. But you look at Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh, and again, I would say he's overrated, but to me, he's on kind of the borderline of fairly rated and over. I would say he's fairly rated, actually, because I think the media coverage recently about Kenny Pickett has showed their concerns towards him. So I'd say fairly rated. But again, a guy who just hasn't shown ability to do what elite quarterbacks have done, and that's fit it in tight windows and have that deep strength. I think we've seen it a lot, and maybe it's the hand size, although I think that was way overhyped and over analyzed.
I have my only problem with that, and hand size does not matter unless he has a fumbling problem, and he does have a fumbling problem.
Yeah, right.
So that's where it's important.
But again, I think a guy who still lacks a little bit of arm strength. When you look at Malik Willis, when you look at Matt Corral, Sam Howell, like lacks a little bit of that zip. And that ability to get downfield. But I do think Kenny Pickett, I do think he's a first round guy, but I would not be surprised if he falls to the second. And again, I think a lot of teams like teams who are desperate and are bad are just not looking to a guy like Kenny Pickett when next year there's CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. It's a very good QB class next year. I would say fairly rated on media coverage because they don't have him as some elite prospect.
Here's the thing. I think teams are very hesitant to take Kenny Pickett now just because, as you said, there are some really good quarterbacks next season, and there will be more because there are quarterbacks that shoot up the draft boards just like Kenny Pickett did this year. This is a guy who we didn't even think about going into this draft season, and he popped off. He had 44 touchdown passes this season. The stats are incredible for him. But when you watch his tape, you can see that he's okay. He's not – I don't think he's as good as Sam Howell, Matt Corral, and I can make my argument for Malik Willis. I would have him over Malik Willis just slightly, but I think if you want to play it safe when picking your quarterback, you might want to pick him.
Yeah.
But I don't know why you'd want to play it safe when you're picking your quarterback now, because playing it safe has led to the following quarterbacks, and be that as it may, these guys have been relatively successful. That's Mac Jones. He was the safe pick. Tua Tagovailoa. the safe pick, and Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold were the safe picks in that year. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing Justin Herbert, Zach Wilson, Davis Mills, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Those are the guys that are thriving. Kenny Pickett, Patrick Mahomes, yeah, of course. And that was Mitch Trubisky, who was the safe pick.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing now, and then there was Kyler Murray. That was a bit of a what's it called? Both, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was no other quarterback in that draft class.
And he was great. Electric.
And he was incredible. But what we're seeing that the safe pick, while it could be okay, and they do have potential, we still see the absolute potential in Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa. I even see it in Sam Darnold still. I still think he has that in him. But we don't see Kenny Pickett being able to make the plays that these elite quarterbacks are going to make. And which is, I've kind of built up to this for a while. I don't know why I kept saying the same things over and over again, but he's just not, he's not Sam Howell. He's not Matt Corral.
But I think he does offer some upside.
He has some upside, but he's not like, I just don't think he's good enough to pick in the first round when there's so many good quarterbacks next year. And I think there's going to be a team that does it. There's going to be either Pittsburgh or Carolina or Seattle, or even I'm seeing Tennessee now, which is kind of ridiculous. But, and then there's obviously New Orleans still in the market. I don't think Carolina is going to look at him, but I just don't see the excitement.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain, like Kenny Pickett. I really don't know how to kind of like analyze him, because I think, and I don't want to use the word boring, but it's almost that what the pick would be. I don't know. I mean, Charlie, what do you think?
He doesn't have the pizzazz that the other guys in this class do.
Mm-hmm.
So my opinion on Kenny Pickett. Now, this is something that I hate when people do, and it's happened with Kenny Pickett. You're scrolling through YouTube or you're scrolling through Instagram or something like that, and all of a sudden, QB fake slide pops up.
Yeah.
All right. And you see one crazy highlight from Kenny Pickett, and all of a sudden,
he's rising.
He's the number 3 or number 2 quarterback in the draft.
He was the number 1 quarterback consensus for a very good period of time.
I don't see it. I feel like people, and it happens not just with Kenny Pickett, but it just happens where you see one clip, and all of a sudden, he's better than he was because he did a fake slide,
which was then deemed illegal the next day.
Which is not illegal, but
no, it goes against all the rules of having to give up,
I mean, it's slide. Not technically illegal, but
now
it's
the
CFE rule, yeah.
So, but it's just you see one play and you're like, wow, that was sick. What's his name? Kenny Pickett. I'm gonna remember that. So I don't like it when that happens, and I'm not super high on Kenny Pickett. I don't think he's particularly good at anything compared to some of the other quarterbacks.
I mean, that's unfortunately how it goes. Yeah,
he's a good quarterback. There's no doubt about it. He had an excellent season at Pitt. He is going to get drafted in the first couple of rounds. Would I take him in the first? No. Would I take him in the second? Probably, if he falls to me. I think he's a good enough player to take there, but at that point, he is being overrated because I think he's potentially number 4 or number 5 quarterback in this class.
Yeah, I didn't even say overrated.
Yeah. All right, Charlie.
Let's move on. We're going to stay on the offense side of the ball. This is maybe an interesting pick. I'm actually switching it around. We're going to go still offense side of the ball. That's wide receiver out of Ohio State.
Ooh, which one?
Chris Olave.
Okay, I've got a simple answer for you. And me and Charlie just did a mock draft, and I'm not sure which will be released first, this or the mock draft. But Chris Olave fell out of the first round. And Chris Olave is my wide receiver 2.
How did that?
Chris Olave is my wide receiver 1.
Wide receiver 3 or 2. 1 or 2.
How did he fall out of the first round?
Because
it just happened.
It kind of just happened. But I wanted
to take him.
I'm seeing
I would
right
have
now.
taken him with that Giants pick, but Dylan took it.
I'm fine with taking Linderbaum there, but I don't see why he's starting to fall down boards, and he fell down my board. He fell down Charlie's board when we were doing the draft. There were plenty of teams that could have taken a receiver. Treylon Burks was taken before him. Jahan Dotson was taken before him. Now we're just talking about ourselves. But I don't see why he went from being a very clear top 3 wide receiver to falling out of the first round. And I thought that the NFL Combine was kind of going to make up for that. He was going to go back into the top 15 picks in the draft. He was going to be a wide receiver 2, 3. And it just hasn't happened. I'm going to say underrated because where all the hype is going to Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave was more important to Ohio State this year.
Yeah. I think both him and Garrett Wilson will be home run picks to whatever teams they go to. I think Olave will be as well. And I think
I like Garrett Wilson. I don't love Garrett Wilson.
That's another. But I think Olave is the classic burner downfield who is a playmaker.
He's much more than that.
And no, he is more than that. And obviously we know one of the best route runners, if not the best route runner in the class. But I think, slim frame, not, height wise, I believe he's 6'1". I always think Garrett Wilson's taller than him, but I'm pretty sure Olave is taller than Garrett Wilson. But again, I think it will be a very good receiver. And I honestly think he could become, one of those guys who has that kind of breakout season like a Justin Jefferson did if he goes to the right team.
Absolutely.
So I do think, I would say fairly rated because I do think that everyone's kind of been, but I understand. I think he's been falling into this, the 20s where I think he could be a teen pick. And obviously we saw him, he's gone on a ton of visits. I know the Jets he just went to, him and Garrett Wilson both went to. And I think he will be a very, very value pick for whatever team he goes to if he falls a little bit. Big fan of Chris Olave. I think, the tape shows, he's a talented football player.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, I'm also going to say underrated. I think super talented. He's my wide receiver 1, maybe wide receiver 2. Definitely in my top 3 if we're including Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson's got to be part of my top 3 as well. But Olave's really good. He's a really good player. An outstanding route runner to start. I think probably second to only John Mechie. And that's maybe even a stretch. I think Mechie's an incredible route runner. I think Olave's an incredible route runner. They're both pretty much unrivaled in this class. But I think
Jahan
Olave,
Dotson gives them a run for their money.
Jahan Dotson, I feel like is just more of a secure catcher. Jahan Dotson's got perfect hands. He never drops anything. But I think Olave and Mechie have him beat on the route running ability. I really like Olave. I'm gonna have to say underrated like once more. I think I've probably said it already 3 times, but yeah, I think we can move on. We're gonna stay at the same position.
I know
we're gonna drop down the board a little bit.
Can I just take a poke at who it's gonna be?
Guess.
Christian Watson.
Nail on.
I knew
Christian Watson. Cian, what do you think?
I really like Christian Watson. I wish Serge was here because I know Serge likes Christian Watson a lot. Again, a guy who I think credit to him because he was kind of a little bit unknown kind of throughout the college season and has now risen into some people's top 5 wide receiver list in a very, very talented wide receiver class. I think the speed and size this guy has cannot go unrecognized. He is a very good player. And I think, again, the question always comes down to, well, he wasn't really playing good competition, which is fair. And especially in a wide receiver class like this, you have to really stack up all of the factors with the receivers to kind of get the best guy. But I really like Christian Watson. I would say underrated for Christian Watson. I think he's a guy where if you were taking the first round late to the Packers, to the Chiefs, I think, it would be a great selection. I think the attributes he has and the physical traits he has will be very hard to pass up on. And I think if he's taken in the second, he'll be a steal. Again, is he a guy who I think will go into league and immediately make an impact? Maybe, but I don't see him. And this is why I don't have him in the top 5, making the potential impact like Olave, Garrett Wilson are the top guys. But I do still think he is a very, very, he's a very promising wide receiver. And I think a guy who, again, I need to see play in the NFL.
I need to see him play in the NFL. Yeah. And I agree, going to the Packers or the Chiefs, that could be a great player. But my issue with Christian Watson and why I'm going to call him overrated is that nobody knew who he was until he ran at the Combine. They don't know him for playing football. They know him for his attributes.
Which I think is fair, though. I think that's fair.
If I'm taking a player, I need to know for certain that they can catch a football.
Well,
obviously he can catch a football, but we know Christian Watson for his athleticism, not his ability to play the game. And where for some players, for some positions, you might say, okay, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with taking Evan Neal, even though he might not be as technically sound as Ike Ekwonu or Charles Cross. But for a wide receiver, what we've seen when guys take the blazing fast guys over the guys with better hands, more refined route running, we see N'Keal Harry, we see Jalen Reagor. I just, compared to the wide receivers in this class, I don't understand taking him in the first round.
Yeah. So Christian Watson. So I'm sort of on the fence with this one because going into this, I figured I was going to be the only one to say overrated. But then, Dylan, based on what you said, I sort of like. I don't mean to say like your points were bad, but it sort of just had me thinking a little bit with Cian, with your. I mean, athletic players are really valuable in this league.
They are, but
rare players are really valuable, and Christian Watson's a rare player. Now, what worries me with Christian Watson is, yeah, he got all this hype after the combine, but that's because no one knew who he was before the combine.
And I think that's how it happens.
There is a reason that people didn't know who he was, because he wasn't lighting it up.
Yeah, that's the thing. He had 800 yards this year and no more than one touchdown in a single game, and no more than 100 yards. He had 100 yards or more in only 2 games, and that came with a 70-yard reception, I believe, and an 85-yard reception.
So why do you take this guy over a George Pickens?
That's where I'm sort of thinking, well, he's just not as good of a football player as some of the rest of them. He may run a sub 4.4, maybe even sub 4.35 on a good day. He may jump higher than anybody else. He may jump farther than anybody else, but he doesn't play football as well as anybody else. Like, I'm gonna put him there as fairly rated on this one. Because while he's not as good of a football player, and I think he's receiving maybe a little bit too much hype, I think nobody's jumped ahead and said he's a sure first rounder. Yeah. Except for Surridge.
Yeah.
I mean, Surridge, I think had a few days where he said he would take Watson to the Jets at like 10. But
no, I don't think he did that. But he said he'd trade down and hope to get Watson. But
I think as long as Watson, nobody has said he's a sure first rounder. He's maybe a shoe into the first round. I'm okay with him being fairly rated there. Once he gets in the first round, he's a little overrated because he's just not as good of a football player. But athletic players are really valuable. Someone who can run fast, jump high, jump far, do all the intangible stuff is really valuable in the NFL. He's a rare player. So I'm going to put him at fairly rated because I think he has pros, he has cons. We'll just see where he ends up.
I'm not crying. I just cough. So, you know, when you like,
yeah, I got allergies.
I'm crying over Christian Watson. You know, like I had something stuck, like I couldn't speak. Sorry.
Draft live stream. I'm playing that clip.
So
I'm not crying. Charlie,
we went 3 defense, we went 3 offense. We're gonna head back to the defensive side of the ball, and that's a position we have not done yet. No, it's not safety. It's not even gonna be linebacker. We're gonna go to the defensive tackle spot.
Can I take a stab at who this is?
Go for it. Let's see.
Telekinetic.
It's not Davonte Wyatt. It's not Jared Davis. Why am I forgetting his first name?
Jordan
Davis.
No, it's Davonte Wyatt.
Oh, so I did get it right. Or I guess I did because I said it's not Davonte Wyatt.
Davonte Wyatt was interesting because Dylan and I were just recording our mock draft, and Dylan kept glazing over Davonte Wyatt as if he wasn't even there. It was I don't like Davonte Wyatt.
So
I
Dylan,
don't like
let's
Davonte
go to you
Wyatt.
first. And what do you think about Davonte Wyatt?
Yeah,
this is funny because I don't really have that much of an opinion on Davonte
it's fun.
Wyatt.
Yeah, I don't either. I was gonna say that's why I went to you first because I don't have much of an opinion on him.
I watch him and I know he's good when I watch him, but my eye is drawn to Jordan Davis and Trayvon Walker instead of Davonte Wyatt. But I'm talking about when I'm watching Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm not
same D tackles.
Even N'Kobe Dean running as an edge rusher at times when he runs out there. I'm not really looking. I might be starting watching film, looking at Davonte Wyatt, but then I'm not really looking at Davonte Wyatt. So I'm going to say overrated just because he doesn't catch my eye glazing over him when I'm doing my mock draft. But that's kind of what I'm doing when I'm watching him play. And maybe that's just shallow analysis, but from my eye, he's just not as special as the other guys on that defense.
It really looked like I was just breaking down on camera. That was weird. And it's happened to me before. Sorry. I still feel it. But yeah, I mean, I'm the same thing. I would say fairly rated, though. I still think I can't even gauge if he'll be a first-round guy.
He will be a first-round guy. And I don't have any background analysis to give you there. I just know that he is pretty consistently being mocked in the first round.
Yeah. Charlie, what do you think?
So I didn't expect this when I put him on the list. I figured someone would have an opinion because I don't have a strong opinion on him either. I think he's another guy that he's just sort of there, and we're all like, yeah, Devonta Wyatt, he'll be there.
Yeah. I think that's I think that happens once in a while.
He's a good player.
Here comes the question: is he real?
I think that was kind of like Liam Eichenberg last year. You're like, oh, he'll be there. Or maybe not Liam Eichenberg. I feel like it's always. I'm trying to think.
There's gotta be someone every year.
Who was that guy last year who was like, yeah? I mean, nobody really talks about him.
Trayvon Merrick.
No,
we talked about him.
Yeah,
but doesn't matter. So I guess.
All right. Well,
so Devonta Wyatt. Again, we did not just do him. Keen, edit that out.
That was a little bit of underpreparedness, but I don't even like. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you guys think. Charlie, how many more do we have?
We would love to hear your opinions in the comments because we clearly don't have any. So,
how many more do we have?
We've got 3 left.
3 more. All right.
We're going to, after that brief defensive stint, we're going to head back over to the offense and go with another big guy. That's Trevor Penning.
Oh, I like that. That's it. I mean, again, talking about Christian Watson, I guess this guy we've seen more, but 6'7", 300 plus. I mean, he is a absolute monster, not to mention mobile for his size. And I mean, a lot of NFL people were talking about how they hated how he was throwing people at the pro day. I love that.
Yeah.
How he was just falling on people. Like, I think this offensive line class is mean. It's a mean offensive line class. Him, Salier, Ikem Ekwonu, like it's a mean, like I want to throw you out of the camera frame. Like I want to put you on your ass. Like it's an aggressive offensive line class, and Trevor Penning at 6'7" very much can do that to you. And again, I think a guy who is very good pass blocking. I think we saw him a lot in run schemes. And I think a guy who's definitely a pretty well-rounded offensive lineman. You look at the freak of nature's Evan Neal and Falele, one of the more polished guys out of them. I think a first-round pick. I've seen him mock to the Saints a lot. I think whoever drafts him is getting a monster. Again, penalties will be the issue if taunting starts to become a thing. But as an offensive lineman, it is very much within your rights to put a guy on his ass and then fall on him. So it is very much within your right. We saw it with Orlando Brown against the Bengals. I mean, we've seen it against Trent Williams, all those guys. And again, as someone who's very effective at the second level, I think he's a underrated prospect.
I think he's underrated. I think Trevor Penning is underrated. I agree with you, Cian. He is completely capable of just throwing people around and moving them off the screen. And I don't quite understand why his hype got raised so much after the Senior Bowl, and he was going up into the top 10, up into the top 20. And I thought, you know what, that might be justified. And then he kind of just fell back again. I don't really know why. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, I'm going to say he's underrated.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you. I think underrated. When I'm doing my mock drafts, right, I come across a team that needs an offensive lineman. Okay, and obviously Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, and Charles Cross are off the board. Okay, you need an offensive lineman, and you're picking right around 15, let's say. I'm looking at the board, and I'm like, there are no offensive. Oh, there's Trevor Penning.
Yeah, right.
That's a perfect player that you can just sort of reach down a little bit because he's an offensive lineman that is just massive and will definitely fill the hole that you need to fill it.
Toss him in there day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a player who will definitely be able to fend for himself in the NFL. If not make it so that the other players have doubts about that. I think he's an underrated player. I really like Trevor Penning.
Yeah. All right.
So two
Top
left.
two.
Let's go back to the defensive side of the ball. And here's another position we have not done yet. I think I covered all the defensive positions.
Linebacker, and it's going to be Nakobe
We're
Dean.
going safety.
Oh, damn it.
Is it Kyle Hamilton? No, because you said you'd be going up the board, so it's not Kyle Hamilton.
It's Kyle. No.
What
it's not
safety is it?
Kyle.
Can I guess?
I'd like to take a stab at this one, actually.
You can both guess.
All right,
both
you
have
go
to
first.
guess.
You go. I'm gonna go with Louis Cine.
You were both wrong.
Dax Hill.
Oh, Dax
God,
Hill.
no.
Oh.
I already heard your opinion on Dax Hill today, Dylan. We're going Jaylen Petra.
Oh. Well,
Really?
Petra is technically a corner, right?
No.
I think he's technically
Listed as a
I think
safety
he's
in the draft on PFF.
He's a DB. Let's just call him.
Okay. I really like
curious.
Petra. And again, I think probably a consensus second round guy, but I think he showed his versatility. We saw it at the pro day, made a ton of plays on the ball. And Charlie, I think you remember we were doing the pro day analysis. We're like, who is that?
Senior.
And it was Jaylen Peter. Again, if we watch it, we go back to it. It was a day 3. He had a really good pass breakup. It was Desmond Ridder, I think, was throwing. So not a very good quarterback, but and we were like, oh, like that's a very good player. Again, I think, pretty lengthy. I believe he's only 5'11" though, but pretty lengthy for his size. And again, I think he's a very versatile, but very scheme friendly guy to several schemes. I love to see him on the 49ers. And again, I would love to see where he plays at that safety, but a little bit too small for a safety in terms of kind of, how rangy guys are, looking at a guy like Kyle Hamilton. So I think maybe a slot corner, I don't really see him as a boundary guy, but kind of having the versatility to play both. I think he's an underrated prospect. I think Jaylen Peter would be a very, very talented player at the next level.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he has better ball skills than any safety in this class.
Yeah.
I think.
And again, it's how do you define him, though?
I'm going to go out on an even bigger limb here, and I'm going to say he will have the most interceptions out of any safety in the NFL this season.
Okay, Dylan.
I think that his ability to track the ball down, and if he plays cornerback, this obviously changes. But his ability to track the ball down is really not matched by any safety I've seen coming into any of these recent drafts. And again, he might be playing cornerback, so it doesn't really matter how well he tracks the ball down as a safety if he does play cornerback. But I'm telling you that if he plays as a safety, we are going to be seeing him in these all-rookie teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's my problem.
Underrated.
So he is a locker room guy. He's a coach's dream. He became that player for Baylor, and he was the most impact defender for Baylor. He played in the star position. So it's not going to translate in the NFL being at 5'11".
Yeah.
He plays as like an outside linebacker in a 4-3, which is versatility. Yes, please. But at the same time, it's college versatility. It's not necessarily, you're not putting.
It's not SEC versatility either.
You're not putting a 5'11" safety at outside linebacker.
Right.
Well, yeah.
It's just, I think he will be a good player. I think he could turn out to be like the Jeremy Chin type guy who fell a little bit.
I was seeing that more as Kyle Hamilton though.
Or a Kyle Duggar maybe, who has been all right.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like Jaylen Peter. I'm going to say fairly rated, though, because I think he's going to have trouble translating the NFL. I think he's a really good player, but I think the NFL, it's a big jump. And being a 5'11" safety, it's just going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard transition.
We've seen a lot of undersized safeties succeed.
No, we have, but he's not a top-rated safety.
Yeah, Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to be a tougher transition than most. But let's go to our last player, another new position on that defensive side of the ball. I guess
this one's linebacker.
We're at linebacker here. You both want to take a guess?
Devin Lloyd.
Chanel.
Both wrong again.
Nakobe Dean.
You're still wrong.
Quay Walker.
How are you still wrong?
Christian
Who is it?
Harris.
We got Christian Harris out of Alabama.
Am I wrong? Was he eligible last year for the draft? Am I completely wrong about that?
It was
No, sorry.
It
That
was
was
the other
Moses.
Bama middle linebacker.
That was Dylan
It
Moses.
Yes,
Sorry.
Dylan Moses.
Where is he now?
He
Don't know.
was
Because
drafted.
remember, he
by,
wasn't drafted, then got cut, and then it was on
No,
Jacksonville.
I think he was drafted by Jacksonville, got cut, and ended up in Baltimore.
He is currently with the Jaguars. Don't hold me to that.
This isn't Christian Harris.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Dylan, I'll let you go first.
I like Christian Harris, and we're talking about Alabama linebacking core last season. As Christian Harris was not pretty much consensus top 10 pick going into this season.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the best linebackers in college football in 2020. I think if he was eligible for the draft, he would have gone in the first or second round. And I really like him because he kind of fits the mold that we're seeing of these linebackers, which is they're kind of outside linebackers that are playing inside linebackers because he gets the quarterback so quickly. And I think anyone who comes off with him in the second round are going to be so lucky because he's just that impact player that they're missing. And I could see him going to a multitude of teams because there are a multitude of teams that need that impact player on defense. He can slot inside as an inside linebacker. He can go out as an outside linebacker. He can play on the edge. He is versatile where you don't really think about it. I'm going to say underrated.
Yeah, I mean, watching this guy, this man explodes into tackles, like vicious tackler. Yeah, no kind of like limitations to his game. You know what I mean? Like physically, no limitations, there. Again, I think
he's fast and strong.
Yeah, I think he offers a lot. In terms of coverage, I think there are a little bit of questions there. But again, pretty versatile player. I think a guy just like you said, it's actually it's kind of like very much like last year's linebacker class, although I guess the top isn't
Micah
as
Parsons.
good. Yeah, right. The top isn't as good. But again, Micah Parsons wasn't the Micah Parsons he is now. You know, like he wasn't that highly. No, yeah, he was still fantastic. Excuse me. But I don't know. I still think that Christian Harris is going to be a very, very good pick. And I think at the end of the day, I think he has first round talent. Will he get taken there? No.
Absolutely.
But I do think he'll be a second. Again, I'd say depth in this linebacker class. It's very deep. And I think Christian Harris is kind of the top of that depth once it gets past Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Harris. I really like Christian Harris. I think fringe first round pick. Will he get taken there? Maybe if a team's desperate enough. But I think I don't know. I really like Christian Harris. I agree with what you guys said. I think he's first round talent, even if he's not taken there. I think he just fills that hole of linebacker. A lot of teams have holes at linebacker. Mm-hmm. It's a very hard position to draft for, to trade for, to pick up in free agency, because there just simply put aren't that many good ones in the NFL.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't say that there's not that many good ones, but all the good ones are drafted in later rounds.
Well, no, but I'm not, I don't mean in terms of the draft. I just mean like in general. How many teams are there that have good linebackers?
I'd say
like
Colts,
more than you don't have to go name them all. That's not the point. But the amount of teams that have more than one good linebacker, I feel like it just isn't that many.
Yeah.
And I think that where you can get guys who can fill that gap, you should, because you don't need necessarily three good linebackers to win the Super Bowl, but one good linebacker and then three role players. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
It works. And Christian Harris is one of those role players.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, underrated in my book. Although, actually, to be fair, I think he may be fairly rated because people are projecting him probably early second round, maybe mid-second round. But I think he's a fringe first, but for sure an early second in my book.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you guys did enjoy. That was a long. Hope you guys did enjoy the video. As always, make sure you guys subscribe. And we talk about NFL draft. We will have extensive coverage of the first round via live stream. So make sure you guys subscribe and stay tuned for that. That is coming. And let us know what you guys think about that. Or not think about that. Just make sure you guys get ready for that. Let us know what you think about all of our opinions on the players. Make sure you follow us on social media at TheeSportsScoop. A ton of content coming. And as I said, we are going into a lull a little bit in our school wise. So hopefully a ton more content will be coming out. So we hope you guys stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys subscribe. Key McDermott, Dylan Shalom with the headset, and Charlie Nidell, who was
Yep.
the moderator of it all. Serge Kali will be on another or future videos, but make sure you guys stay tuned for more draft content. I'm telling you, majority of our videos from now on will probably be NFL draft related. So make sure you stay tuned for that until the draft. We hope you guys enjoy. See you next time.